Good morning. It's the Sunday, the 30th of July, and I can't even tell you about the delight I am feeling in my heart and soul as I look at this magnificent garden. If I could send you the perfume that is in the air, I would. But I can tell you that this is just a little piece of heaven that I am so incredibly blessed to be enjoying and sharing a little bit with you. As you can see, we have a stunning day in a big sunshine and big blue sky, some clouds, which is fine, so long as they stay away for today. That would be nice. Wow, look at this place. I hope, there's bumblebees and all sorts and little flying insects and what have you all over the place. It's really a dream garden, and I'm extremely blessed to be here. I've never been here before, and the owners of this garden have very kindly said that I could take a walk around. I came to collect something from them, and I said, what a view, and they offered that I just come and enjoy it, because as they said, it's at its best at the moment. And it's like a dream, to be honest, because it's just peaceful. We're out of town. There's not a lot of, you can hear the traffic in the background, but there's bird song and insects chirping, and it's just amazing. Let me go around this way. We'll do a full circuit because I wanted to see these magnificent flowers. Look at this. Wow. Oh. So every now and then you'll get my shadow, which is unintentional, but it's because the sun is behind me. But anyway, so I'm waxing lyrical, aren't I? Look at the size of these leaves. Now, I've got this video on something called cinematic mode, so I'm hoping it'll do well. I'm not sure. I've not used cinematic mode on this new phone of mine, so hopefully all will be well. And it'll all transfer okay. Look at this. See, I love trees. One day I'll have to go for a walk with Colin at the Corder Castle Gardens again. We haven't been for a couple of years, but oh my goodness, the trees in that woodland, that forest are just incredible. Look at this. I'm going to go and sit on that bench so that you can get an idea of the view from this position, this aspect. Let's go and sit down. Oh, look at that. Now I know it's not the same when you're not present, but I do hope you're gaining some sense of this garden, which would bring anybody to a place of real peace and joy, a real sense of beauty, which I'm so grateful for right now. What a pleasure. Thank you for giving me that moment, and I'm hoping that there is a transfer of the peace that is existing here, that exists right here in this moment, that transfers to you as I amble through here. There's no way this place requires a quick walk. This is a slow enjoyment. Now, I could say that I wish that I knew the names of flowers and trees and plants, so as best to be able to identify them and say, oh, look at this beautiful whatever plant it is, or what. I can tell you that this is a thistle, and it's needing to come into focus. Cinematic mode obviously has a focus thing, which I don't know how to use, but it's enough that we just get to just be absorbed into this natural environment without needing to know the names of anything. Watched a film a little while ago, and I actually posted it to Facebook the other day, The Biggest Little Farm, and it's about holistic farming, permaculture, something like that, and it was one of the most inspirational films I think I've watched in a very, very long time. And when I look at space like this, it just feels like a holistic garden where there are so many different living things here that are just being allowed to be together. And whilst the lawn is manicured or, mowed, you get these wonderful wild meadow spaces. And it's the living together in some kind of symbiotic harmony. So The Biggest Little Farm, if you're looking for something really beautiful and inspirational, a true documentary type film, do yourselves a favour. It's on Netflix, and it's really special. Another film that I can recommend for anybody who enjoys watching the sport of freediving is The Deepest Breath. I think that's what it's called. It's a new one as well. Extraordinary feats, and a wonderful, amazing, poignant, moving story. This is lovely green space, open green space. Wow. Fruit trees. Well, I had something on my mind the other day, and I said to Colin, oh, that'll be a good one to talk about. And of course I didn't write it down, and of course it's sunk into the depths of subconscious somewhere. So there is no dragging it out right now. I have absolutely no memory of what it was. Apples everywhere. And so I did call Colin to see if he remembered, because I mentioned it to him. We were talking the other day, and that's when it came up, and I thought, oh, that would make a good thing to chat about. But he can't remember either, but he did suggest that I talk about marriage and weddings, because we attended a wedding yesterday, and Colin actually conducted the wedding. It's been a long time since he's done that, and he had to get a one-off license to do it, which was great that he could do that. And I would like to say, for anybody who's ever attended a service or a wedding or even a funeral by Colin, I think if you have, you'll remember that he's actually very adept. He's very good at what he does. And, he has a really amazing charisma. He also is extremely adept at connecting things and holding on to things and then putting them together in a speech, or he even wrote a poem for the wedding yesterday. And the wedding was for a young lassie who used to work at Wrights Home Hardware, and she had asked Colin if he would do the wedding, and so off we went. And I have to tell you, it was probably the single most free, unstructured, informal, whilst being a full Scottish wedding that we've ever been to. And it was interesting because it's almost like things are being redone, reimagined, reinvented. It's like young people today are saying, we're going to do it our way. We're not going to do it the old way. We're not going to follow, for want of a better phrase, stuffy old tradition. There really is a change. There's a change in everything. There's a change in the atmosphere of everything. And whilst it was pretty not wild, although fair enough, at some points it did feel that it could be a little wild. I mean, it was full of young people, so many youngsters. It was so impressive that this young lady's groom had maintained solid friendships with a large group of other young men. And it was so wonderful to see them all there. I think he said there were 20 of them who had remained friends since primary school. Even before that, his best man had been his friend in nursery. And they were all in their kilts and they looked utterly amazing. And there was, people with, very, very kind of like clean cut, and guys with tattoos and everything. And there was this group of, it was eclectic and yet it was so connected. It was very inspirational. And clearly, there were those of us who were in the older age categories, and whilst it was fine, I mean, I didn't know, I went there as, Colin's wife, and only knew a couple of people. I must admit it was a young person's day, and the energy and the atmosphere was quite electric. It was full of joy, full of fun. I mean, the folk just had an absolute ball. And I suppose there is something to be said about the generation possibly who've been born in the 2000s onwards, saying we're just not going to do it that way anymore. I don't blame them, because the way that has been done doesn't really seem to be working, does it? I don't think we've made a really good job of it all. I think that, coming from Africa, me being Zimbabwean, and strong cultures or traditional or indigenous cultures in Zimbabwe, and there obviously are in South Africa and other African nations, but my home country being Zimbabwe, there's the Shona culture, there's the Matabele culture, and then there's a whole bunch of other cultures under that. There's kind of tribes under that, but not as large. So the Shona culture is incredibly strong, and it's very, very, in my opinion, so I'm not generalizing this, but it is, in my opinion, from what I saw, an incredibly restrictive, controlling culture. And I think that's true of all culture, to be fair. Culture is, it's almost like the law. And anybody who bucks culture is sometimes ostracized or punished. There's all sorts of things that can be put upon somebody who backs out of culture or goes against it. But my experience of the cultural control in Africa or in Zimbabwe was quite detrimental. You know, I saw people absolutely almost held to ransom, to be honest, for things that came from ancestors, you know, from way back in the past. And there you've got these young people living in a modern world with access to all the modern world can offer them: internet, cars, homes, jewelry, you know, everything that wasn't in ancient Africa, in ancient times, you know, where people did literally live in smaller village groups and literally did have to do all sorts of things that they don't have to do today. Some do because that's where they still live. But, you know, there's a whole bunch of young people, younger generations who live in the city and the cities. And to be honest, just about everybody in Africa has a mobile phone. So they all have access to internet and stuff like that anyway. So, yeah, it's a real clash. It's a real clash. And so you've got people who are looking for freedom, liberty, release from these things. And there's a real difficulty in that separation. There's a real price to pay for some people, a very serious price to pay for some people, and for others less so. And also, you know, patriarchy. Patriarchy is huge in Africa. I mean, it exists in all sorts of different places and what have you, but there's a real battle for women and, you know, the female to be recognized as having equal agency. And so yesterday seemed to be that for me. In reflection, you know, on reflection, I mean, that this was young people saying, we're just going to do it the way we want to do it. It's our wedding, you know, we're just doing it. And so for Colin, and as the groom said, he said if it wasn't for Colin, the thing, he has no idea what would have happened, because they hadn't organized anything. You know, everything went a bit squiff, but it actually went very well. It was free. It was spontaneous. And I must admit, when we left at 6:30, the party was just starting, and it promised to go on for a long, long time. So there was a lot of joy and a lot of, there was laughter all over the place. And I'm kind of just really encouraged that, I was encouraged by the freedom, because for so long institutions have held power, whether it be the institution of the church, the institution of education, politics, what. All these institutions, the world system that has sought to, maintain control of human behavior. I mean, you know, I know some people would be very, would not agree with what I'm saying, would maybe very opposed to what I'm saying about institutions like the church. But at the end of the day, my experience of it is that the church employs tactics to modify people's behavior, and it doesn't create autonomy, doesn't create freedom. It does not introduce people to freedom. It just introduces people to another form of restriction and control. I mean, I know, because I grew up in it from a certain age, and then I became a person who perpetuated it. You know, it's like somebody comes to see you and they're telling you about all the difficult things that are going on in their life, and you ask them, are you tithing? And if they say no, it's like, well, you know, maybe you should start tithing. And not necessarily so blatantly as that, but, you know, you slip these questions in because people, I mean, I believed it, that if you didn't tithe, you wouldn't be blessed of God, and all the things that started to happen in your life that weren't quite according to your plan, were because you were stealing from God, as though God cares about filthy lucre. Honestly. But yeah, it's a mindset, it's a programming, it's conditioning. And I know that when I did this, when I was a perpetuator of these systems, and everything from heaven and hell, and all everything from sickness and healing. I remember on the Isle of Man a couple being told that they were struggling to have a child, and they were asked the question, "Are you tithing?" And they weren't tithing, so it was, I don't know how it was suggested, I wasn't present, but they began tithing, and voila, suddenly they had a baby. And that kind of like just what is it, it's, I don't know, it makes it more, oh wow, it must have been that. And yet it's so wrong, because there are so many other people who tithe and tithe and tithe and never have babies. You know what I mean? It's just manipulation. But the people who are perpetuating it at that time are not doing it from a malicious intent. I know that, because I wasn't. It was purely from my own conditioning, and it was with a true belief that people would be blessed. So that's what we all want. We all just want to be blessed. We want to live lives of blessing and abundance, and be touched by, just to embody grace and goodness and compassion and love and joy and all of those. And I know that a lot of people find that, or think they find it, within an institution. I can't say one way or the other. I only know that in leaving the institution, I have found much peace, contentment, goodness, kindness, loving kindness, faithfulness, joy, patience, goodness. Yeah, I think I said that. And self-control and freedom. Oh my goodness, so much more freedom. And a sense of well-being, not a sense of fear, a sense of security, and just a real reassurance in myself. Whereas before it was always that little bit of anxiety about, am I actually still on the narrow path? Anyway, so that's where today's chat went. Look at this. Oh, I'm just blown away at the beauty of this place. And thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed the ramble on both counts, and hope that wherever you are, that your day is a day of joy and blessing, peace and beauty. Sending you so much love. Bye.